It's all a mystery now. I mean, at this point, calling them memories wouldn't even be 100% the truth. You see, several years ago, the latest blockbuster movies were almost expected to have an accompanying video game, but these days, they're nowhere to be found. I could still remember coming out the theater in 2008, having just seen Marvel's new Iron Man, and immediately thinking two things. One, I need to learn how to play guitar because the music in Iron Man is absolutely insane. And two, I need to get my mom to take me to GameStop to get that new Iron Man video game tie-in. Believe it or not, there was actually a time when every major movie had an accompanying game. After watching their counterparts on the silver screen, you were 10 minutes of fiddling with some red, white, and yellow cables before you too could be Frodo battling for Middle-earth, James Bond sneaking past some Russians, or Harry Potter using Expecto Patronum through the halls of Hogwarts. However, if it was X-Men, Thor, Batman, Harry Potter, Alien, Fight Club, The Fifth Element, Cars, Cars 2, Cars 3, Drive to Win, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Fantastic Four, Chicken Little, The Chronicles of Narnia, James Cameron's Avatar. Almost every movie that came out back in the day, no matter how good the idea or how large and well-funded the team behind it, would certainly launch with some sort of game alongside. Nowadays, however, one would be hard-pressed to find any such game outside of the LEGO umbrella. In order to understand the full story behind movie video game tie-ins and how they've seemingly disappeared off of the face of the earth, I'm going to be breaking this video down into 3 different sections. Chapter 1, The Rise, Chapter 2, The Peak, and Chapter 3, The Fall. To find out how things ended, I think we first have to travel back to where it all began. Really quick though, if you guys wouldn't mind leaving a like on this video as well as subscribing with notifications on, I would really appreciate it. I put a ton of research and effort into this, and I hope if not anything else, you're able to walk away from this video having learned something you didn't know before. As well, I've linked all the articles and websites I used in the description below. Most of the things I say are taken from those sources directly and their respective authors, so to give them their proper respect, and in case any of you are interested, the links are down there for your pleasure. But that being said, let's not waste another second and jump right into chapter 1 of why did video games based on movies disappear. The Rise. Afterwards, and somewhat during what people would call the golden age of arcade video games, 1976 was the year that officially kickstarted the second generation of video game consoles. However, the market would see trying times for almost half a decade before the real breakthrough for home video games in 1980. You see, a conversion of the popular Space Invaders game for the VCS was released by Atari, and buoyed by the success of the game, Atari's consumer sales almost doubled from 119 million in 1979 to nearly 204 million in 1980. And then, in 1981, it exploded to over 841 million. It just so happened to be this explosion that led us to one of the first video games ever to be tied in with a movie. A simplistic Space Invaders clone developed for the Microvision named Star Trek Phaser Strike would unknowingly kickstart an entire gaming genre in the summer of 1979. A few years later, this new subgenre of gaming would only seem to rise due to the release of Star Wars, and the countless tie-in games that came along with George Lucas's latest success. And trust me when I say countless tie-ins. The 80s and 90s were chock full of these video game adaptations, ranging from Bill and Ted's excellent video game adventure to Die Hard and even to The Godfather, which all released in 1991. Titles such as Star Wars X-Wing live on today as an influencer of modern games, and to this day fans hold many of the older adaptations of Star Wars among some of the highest rated games of all time. But this was only the beginning. The peak. The 2000s was the start of the 4th decade in the video game industry. Primarily dominated by companies like Sony, Sega, Nintendo, and newcomer Microsoft, it ushered in a focus on developing immersive, interactive environments, implementing realistic physics, as well as improving artificial intelligence. And with the emergence of high-definition games, it became witness to the end of the low-resolution 3-dimensional polygons of the 1990s. Now, although a tremendous competitor and rival of Nintendo's throughout the 80s and 90s, in 2002, Sega made the decision to pull out of the console market after 2 straight underperforming consoles, re-aiming focus on third-party development and unknowingly shrinking the playing field of gaming consoles forever. In 1998, the 6th generation of video game consoles would come to fruition with the introduction of the short-lived Dreamcast. But things wouldn't really start to take off in the world of gaming for another 2 years when on October 26, 2000, the now infamous PlayStation 2 was released in North America. The PlayStation 2 almost immediately became the best-selling video game console of all time. However, due to the sensational reaction from people all across the nation, Bill Gates' Microsoft decided to join Sony in the new generation and take their own shot at creating a gaming console. Thus, Microsoft released the Xbox on November 15, 2001 in order to compete with the officially branded PS2. Although initially expected to struggle, Microsoft's new console surprisingly managed to reach 2nd place in sales behind the PlayStation, mostly relying on the strength of its groundbreaking launch title Halo Combat Evolved. This also meant, however, that the Xbox had beat out Nintendo's GameCube, making the GameCube the first of any Nintendo console to not reach the top 2 spot in sales. Movie studios were quick to capitalize on this constantly moving and ever-growing trend of gaming now more than ever, especially with the introduction of the 7th generation of at-home video game consoles. Just browse the top 10 strangest video games based on movies list over at thegamer.com and you'll get a good idea of how insanely popular this subgenre had become throughout the early and mid-2000s. Movies like Nacho Libre and Napoleon Dynamite, which are 2 IPs that have absolutely no reason to be anywhere near a game developer's computer, were both turned into games for the Nintendo DS. And even a movie like Fight Club ended up having a game based off of it on both the Xbox and PS2. Almost every Disney movie was bound to have a DS game of some sort packaged along with it, and DreamWorks even went as far as to blatantly rip off Nintendo's Mario Kart with their very own, originally titled Madagascar Karts. What had seemingly started out small and fueled by the passion of fans with Star Trek Phaser Strike had now twisted and turned into a corporate money machine with the sole purpose of capitalizing on whatever intellectual property was worth waving about at the time. And in 2008, it didn't seem like they had any plan on stopping. Even in the glory days though, it was an undeniable fact that the majority of these movie-based video games were bad. Like, very bad. And this was often because deadlines became increasingly tight in order for games to coincide with the film's release. And still, as a 10-year-old rushing out of the theater after just seeing Iron Man, I knew what I had asked for was not worth it. I guess that just goes to show fandom can only go so far, because slowly but surely, I found myself staying away from that part of the game section, and only here and there, perhaps when a movie that I really liked came out, would I run to GameStop and check out the game that coincided along with it. One day though, I don't remember exactly when, I just stopped caring altogether. I stopped caring because it seemed like the people who made the games had stopped, and maybe in hindsight, it looks like they never did in the first place. I couldn't have been the only one who noticed though, because nowadays when you walk through those same aisles at Target, there's no video games on movies to be found. Not a single one. The fall. There are a number of reasons for the change, but it is a complicated topic, says James Turkers, a computer games lecturer at Southampton Solent University, in an interview with comicbookmovie.com. Turkers explains that the first generation of film-based games ended with a crash after the Atari game E.T. the Extraterrestrial flopped. And although the 90s and noughts saw another boom in movie tie-in games, with Turkers explaining that the first-person shooter GoldenEye 007 actually made more money than the film, this ever-increasing schedule combined with licensing costs and the fact that many tie-in games are, at their heart, a cash grab, meant low-quality games were being released. And as time progressed and tie-ins became less reasonable, this meant falling sales, meaning smaller budgets, meaning more bad games. And then one day, poof. Barely a whisper of a film and game tie-in to be seen. One of the last true adaptations was The Amazing Spider-Man 2 in 2014, which launched to lackluster reviews. Since then, games based on movies have remained a relic of the past. I guess to put it simply, releasing a film and a game simultaneously became too expensive, and a typical blockbuster budget is essentially doubled by the film's marketing. So adding millions to create a AAA game adaptation as well is enough to break the bank. Box office hits such as Thor in 2011 and Captain America: The First Avenger in the same year became crippled by their critically bashed game releases. Not only were budgets tight on them, but the time to create them became increasingly rushed as well. A typical film can be shot and edited in roughly a year's time, not accounting for reshoots or studio interference. High quality games, however, can take multiple years to complete, which hinders the sales boost of releasing alongside movies. Nowadays, studios often prefer to avoid the risk altogether by allowing Lego to make a tried and tested video game of their movie, and it seems to be working just fine for them. Today, it seems, however, some developers have found a clever amalgamation of developing their own game while still capitalizing on movie magic. Of course, that's a reference to microtransactions and downloadable content. Some fans love it, some fans hate it, but either way, the Terminator appeared in Mortal Kombat 11, Gears 5, and Fortnite, and that's just one of the titles working alongside Hollywood through DLC. Cameos of a fan favorite character may seem harmless, but things may be perceived a little bit differently after Fortnite received exclusive content from Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker this past year. Not only were characters featured in the Battle Royale, but an exclusive piece of dialogue played before each match. The monologue, given by Emperor Palpatine actor Ian McDiarmid, was not featured in the film and was created exclusively for Fortnite. Even Star Wars Battlefront 2, developed by DICE, did not receive the same content boost as the popular Battle Royale. Could this be the new future for video games based on movies? And will our favorite films be reduced to paid DLC and expansions? Will it ever be possible for Hollywood to co-release a high-quality film and game again? Maybe, maybe not. It may seem like video games based on movies have totally disappeared. However, with some research and investigating, we here at Planet Nerd have found out that that is not quite the case. Evolution and money have taken their course, and the AAA movie crossovers that we once loved in the early 2000s and even back in the 80s have transformed into mobile games on our phones and DLC packages contained in limited time crossover events. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing, but I am nostalgic for those old crappy games that I would pick up every now and then after a significantly better movie. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you have to say on this topic. Other than that, I'm gonna wrap this one up here. Don't forget to leave a like on this video, as well as subscribe with notifications on so you can get notified every single time that I upload a video. As always, my name's MJ with Planet Nerd. Peace out, guys.